Freida McFadden is one of the biggest thriller authors out there at the moment. On social media, I see reviews for her books everywhere. And I feel like this author is the definition of Marmite. On one hand, we have those who absolutely love her, and on the other, people absolutely despise her, and there seems to be no middle ground. Emma reads crime here. I'm crime, thriller and mystery book obsessed, and I'm ashamed to say that I have never ever read a Freida book in my life. So for a whole week, I have decided to read only books by Freida McFadden so I can form my own opinion of her work. And if you've never read a Freida book before, hopefully this will give you some insight. This could go either one of two ways. It's either going to end up being the best reading week of my life, or it's going to be terrible and I'm going to end up in a reading slump. So first things first is deciding where to start. She has written a ton of books and I was so overwhelmed with the amount of choices. So I decided to take this to Instagram to ask you lovely people which of her books you would recommend. In the end, I was recommended 6 books in total. These were The Housemaid 1, The Housemaid 2, The Perfect Son, The Boyfriend, Ward D and Never Lie. Amongst the book recommendations, I also had several people telling me to don't do it. So before I start this reading challenge, I'm going to need some books. So the only book of hers I actually currently own is The Housemaid. I've had this on my TBR for well over a year. This afternoon I'm going to go to the works because they often have Freida books in the 3 for £6 deal, which is just a bargain. I don't want to spend too much money in case I hate her. Before I go though, I'm going to see which of her books are available for free on Prime Reading. If you don't know what Amazon Prime Reading is, basically if you have a Kindle and Amazon Prime, you can borrow up to 10 books for completely free. If you go into the Kindle store and click this Prime Reading button here, this is a quick way for you to find a bunch of books which are included in the Prime Reading deal. And oh look, here we have it, a Freida book is included. So all you have to do is press the download button and you can download and borrow up to 10 books. You can also search for authors and books the usual way, and if they have the little Prime Reading symbol next to them, they are also included, as you can see with this book here. I'm heading over to the works now and I'm bringing you with me. I need to be really focused and only pick up books by Freida and have tunnel vision and ignore all other books by other authors. Come on, let's go. I'm on my way to the works. Our drive is still covered in snow, so I was really scared to drive the car. So Mr. Emma Reads Crime, Mr. ERC, has very kindly offered to drive me. He's getting lots of cups of teas made for him this afternoon. So I've arrived at the works. I'm going to feel super awkward filming inside, but I'm going to do it anyway. Here it is. It looks like they've got a pretty decent sale on. Let's see. Which one's the back in? Look how cool these edges are. I found a few Freida books, but none are in the 3 for £6 deal, but there's loads more books in here, so I'm going to go further down into the shop. Okay, so I've arrived at the 3 for £6 section, so hopefully I have some more joy here. This doesn't have a sticker on, but I presume it's in a deal. I asked the lady in the shop, and the only Freida book they have in the 3 for £6 deal is this one. She said that they go like hotcakes. And then the only other Freida books they've got in store is The Housemaid is Watching. I think that's book 3 in their Maid series. Then they've got The Boyfriend, which one of you recommended, and also The Co-worker. Okay, so that was maybe a little disappointing in the 3 for £6 deal. They do have a load of books online in the 3 for £6, and I did contemplate ordering them, but you just never know when they're going to arrive. So I picked up The Boyfriend, which one of you guys recommended. So I think it's like this girl is dating this guy and he's a serial killer, I think. It sounds pretty interesting. Then I picked up The Co-worker, which I believe is a like cat and mouse style thriller set in an office. So I got 2 books in total for £9, which is still pretty cheap for 2 books. So I'm going to finish off my current reads and then start this challenge in a couple of days, so I'll see you then. It's day 1 of only reading Freida McFadden books for a week, and I thought it was only right to start off with her most famous book of them all, which is obviously The Housemaid. I'm only a couple of chapters in, so it's obviously way too soon to form an opinion, but I am intrigued so far. Tonight on my Kindle, I'm going to start Locked Door, and then I'll be back in a couple of days with an update. I didn't have much to report yesterday, so welcome to day 3 of only reading Freida books for a week. Bang on halfway through the Locked Door. I'm really enjoying it so far, but I'll give my full thoughts in a couple of days when I've finished it. And I only have 60-70 pages of The Housemaid left to go, so shortly I'm going to finish it. Something I'm finding particularly fun about reading The Housemaid is that the screen adaptation has been announced along with the key actors playing the main characters in the books. The main actors are Amanda Seyfried, Sydney Sweeney, Brandon Skeller and Michele Morone, so it's been really fun to imagine those actors while reading the story. I've been really enjoying what I've been reading so far, and I can absolutely see the appeal of her books and why she's so popular. They are just so addictive and so easy to fly through, and it really helps that the books themselves are not too long and the chapters are relatively short. The Housemaid and The Locked Door also have some romance subplots going on, so even though they are thriller books, they've got a bit of something for everybody, which is very smart, and I can see why they appeal to a much wider audience. I don't know if this is a coincidence, but I've noticed in both books the author makes reference to lavender fragrance, but in sort of a negative way. I'm really nosy, so naturally I now need to know if the author has a particular affinity for lavender or if it's just a weird coincidence, and I'm also going to be looking out for that in other books. 50 pages to go. Less than 30 pages to go. 10 pages left. I'm done. I genuinely believe that I am the last person on the planet to read this book, but just in case you haven't read it, here's the plot. Ex-con Millie gets a job as a housemaid, hence the title, working for a really wealthy couple. However, as soon as she arrives, there's some major red flags, but she needs to keep this job and the money is pretty decent. Really enjoyed this, so not quite a 5-star read for me, but a very strong 4.5 out of 5. It takes a lot for me to give a book 5 stars. I see a lot of people talk about their 6-star books, and that's kind of what a 5-star book is for me. The reason I didn't give this 5 stars was because of the twist. Don't get me wrong, the twist is brilliant, but it comes out of nowhere. The types of twists I love are the kind where you get to the twist, you're shocked, you have to go back to the start immediately, and then you pick up on clues that you originally missed. But even though I appreciated the twist, and it did have that shock factor, it was kind of plucked out from nowhere. I was also a bit confused when reading this how this book has been made into a series, but now I totally get it, and I need to get book 2. I had the most exciting book mail today. So this is a complete coincidence, but the publisher of her upcoming book, The Crash, contacted me and asked me if I'd like an advance copy of the book. And I said yes, and it arrived today. So this is going to be my next read. It's out on the 28th of January in the UK. So I'm going to make a start on this now, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 4. It's day 4 of only reading books by Freida, and I am exhausted. Obviously her books are super exciting, so as I'm reading them before going to bed, I don't know if it's like the same as when you play Tetris on your phone before bed and then your brain's all wired, or if it's just a coincidence, but this whole week I've been sleeping terribly. And because I've been sleeping terribly, I ended up finishing The Locked Door last night. If you're not familiar with the story, main character Nora, when she was 11, her father was arrested because he's a serial killer. He had a particular type of women and he liked to chop off their hands, which dubbed him the nickname the Handyman. In the present day, Nora is an adult and she's a surgeon as her job, and there's a copycat killer on the loose. So naturally, she is the police's #1 suspect due to her father's past crimes and the fact that she has surgical experience herself. I really enjoyed this one. Again, as with The Housemaid, it was really addictive. Really thought I'd sussed out the twist on this one, but it really shocked me. But again, it's kind of like what I criticised The Housemaid for. The twist kind of came out of nowhere. I couldn't find any clues or any breadcrumbs before the twist happened. I also felt like Nora had quite a darkness to her and it wasn't explored fully, but I really enjoyed this one still, and I gave it 4 stars out of 5. I now need to decide what next to pick on my Kindle. I'm torn between Ward D, The Perfect Son, and The Housemaid #2. Also about 15% of the way through The Crash, so I will come back with more updates when I've read more, but so far so good. See you tomorrow for day 5. Hey, so it's day 5 and I'm still getting along really well with The Crash. I decided to start The Housemaids Secret on my Kindle last night, and so far so good. See you tomorrow. Hello everybody, it is day 7, the final day of only reading Freida for a week. I didn't pop on yesterday because I didn't really have anything else to update you on. Working my way through The Housemaid #2, and I've got about 80 pages left of The Crash and then I'm done. So I'm going to spend the rest of my day finishing off those books, and then I'll be back tomorrow with final reviews. That's it, 7 days of Freida is over. So last night I finished The Housemaid 2. I finished it about 11:15, so I only just squeaked it in. I won't tell you what it's about, just purely because I don't want to spoil book 1 for any of you that haven't read it, but I really enjoyed it. Not quite as much as The Housemaid 1, but still I thought it was a great read. The second half in particular was fantastic and I gave it 4 stars out of 5. Then yesterday I also finished The Crash, which is coming out on the 28th of January. For main character Tegan, she's 8 months pregnant, she's completely alone, and she just wants to put her crumbling life back together. She sets off to go see her brother, not realising that she's heading straight into a storm. She has a crash in this storm and she ends up breaking her leg and she is stranded. Luckily, couple Hank and Polly find her and they let her stay and recover at their house until the snow clears so they can take her to hospital. Tegan begins to suspect that something is not quite right. This book felt a little different to the other Frieda books that I've read because, you know, I've read 4 now, I'm a Frieda expert. The beginning sucked me in immediately and there was a few twists at the end which I liked and they kind of made sense. I've criticised her twists in the past for being a bit random, but in this book they did make sense. And even though initially I was sucked into the story, I did find this a little slower pace than her other books, and I did find the middle needed to be a bit shorter. Overall, I did enjoy this, but it was my least favourite of her books, so I ended up giving it 3.5 stars out of 5. And for me, a 3.5 stars or above means it's staying on my bookshelf. For my 7 days of Frieda, I managed to read The Crash, The Housemaid 1, The Housemaid 2, and The Locked Door, and I am so impressed that I managed to read 4 books in 7 days, but her books are really easy to binge and fly through. I ended up not actually reading either of the books which I bought from the works, and for the purpose of this video, maybe my trip was a bit redundant, but I wasn't expecting to get a copy of The Crash, and it wasn't a waste because I will read these eventually. Maybe not in the next couple of weeks because I'm a bit Frieda'd out, but certainly in the not too distant future. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you'd like to hit that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. What's your favourite book by Freida McFadden? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you, bye!